Geographically, it is in Siberia. I'm going to talk about Sergeyevskaya project, which is a brownfield discovery which we made. Although the last work which was done there was back in the 1960s, before I was born. And I think you will enjoy to see what is still possible to do in the country. And I personally enjoyed the presentation by Peter Hamber, and I had the chance, even before they started operation, to visit all the properties which they currently have, and you can see what is possible to do. We believe we also can do something. I'll start from highlights. Essentially, until 2016, we were a company which operated for a long time in Central Asia, mostly focusing on copper projects with some gold in them. If that gold was available, it was always available in one or another form. But copper business for juniors is tough these days, as everybody knows, and it requires a lot of capital, and also your final product is very huge. And because of different circumstances, which I'm not going to explain in details here, we actually choose that the best option for us is to sell the business, which we did in 2017 in October, and to start something else. And we have chosen to go back to Russia. I'm Russian, and you will see how the project evolves. So far, during last 2 years, and first time I visited the site was back in July 2016, so 27 months ago. During this period of time, we spent $4.5 million, and you can see what is possible to do for this money. Corporate-wise, our structure is now very simple. Instead of several projects, several base metal projects in the country, we have just one in Russia, which is Sergeyevskaya, and we own, image is out of focus, but essentially, we own 90% in the intermediate company, which is based in Cyprus, and the Cyprus company owns 100% of the Russian project, which is a license holder. After we married with the sellers, we changed the structure, we simplified everything, we actually outsourced all the admin to Canada. I actually work from home. This is how it works. The chairman lives near Rome, and the manager director circulates between Cyprus, Chita, which is a town in the Russian Far East, and Moscow. So it became a network company, and basically this is how we operate. About 35% of shares is controlled by the management and insiders, plus we have about 7% representation by Goldfields, and free float is 43%. And we are listed on Toronto Stock Exchange. The share price fluctuates between 20 and 24 cents. Our market cap is small, $7 to $8 million. We are trying to increase, and you will see whether we have the basis for it or not. This is our board. On the left-hand side here, you can see Dr. Sergey Kurzin. He's as English as I am. He actually came to live in the UK back in 1990. He never lived in Russia, to be honest. He lived in the Soviet Union, but he never lived in Russia. And he is probably the most successful entrepreneur in terms of developing the projects in the former Soviet Union. I would mention the Chrome asset, was got Chrome in Kazakhstan, which was ultimately sold for $1.8 billion to Mitchell Group, which is now the project is owned by the Turkish operator. He was instrumental in bringing Kupal, which is a deposit in Chukotka in the Russian northeast, to Bima Gold, which eventually was acquired by Kindros Gold for $3.8 billion, and it is the third or fourth largest single gold producer in the country. Actually, 40% of revenue of Kindros, irrespective of any sanctions, comes from Russia. Sergey Stefanovich, who is here, and actually you can collect this presentation from us in printed form. He previously worked for Norilsk Nickel as the head of mergers and acquisitions. I worked for major companies, visited about 75 countries, and I worked for BHP and for Goldfields now. I'm working for a junior company. Our non-executive directors are also experienced in Russia. Mark Kora was actually chief financial officer of Bima Gold, which is related to Kupal story. David Rhodes is well known in London as part of Endeavour Financial, and we have Russian non-executive directors. Now about the project itself. It is located in Siberia, In the middle here, this is Lake Baikal, and Mongolia is to the south. That's northeast China. Triple junction between Russia, China, Mongolia is over here. The project is located here in the eastern side of Transbaikalia, and I visited the first time in July 2016. The nearest railway station is 35 kilometers from the site on the paved road. Until 8 years ago, there was no paved road between Siberia and Russian Forest. You couldn't even drive during summertime between the two parts of the country. Now the road is built. As we will see on the next image, it's 8 kilometers from the actual site. Power, water, in Siberia there is plenty of water, no problem, and there is experienced labor. That's the actual license. The license is relatively small, 7.6 square kilometers, and the road which I mentioned passes here. This distance is 8 kilometers. There are two towns, both are mining towns. One is called Kluchi, and the other one is called Davenda. 3,000 people in two towns. When I arrived first, you probably cannot see it well, but this is an open pit of the Kluchevsky deposit, which historically produced 1.3 million ounces of gold during approximately 50 years. Very lazy operation with production of 0.25 to 1.5 million tons per annum at its peak. And gold-wise, they were producing like 30,000 ounces per annum. But the important thing that the western wall of the open pit is just 300 meters from the license boundary. And I felt that's interesting. The project is currently, the operation was suspended in 2002, no mining for 15 years. Currently it's owned by the Indian company called Sun Gold. They never resumed the operation, but they drilled it and they confirmed that the mineralization goes down deep for 500 meters. They estimated between 4 and 6 million ounces of gold in it, depending on the cutoff. And when you have an ore body which is 500 meters vertically and you have just 300 meters to a license boundary, I would never believe that this ore body would stop within 50 or 100 meter distance. So this is our neighbor to the east. The Sun Gold, they brought China National Gold Corporation, which is a government company, as their partner, which is in the process of buying 70% of the project for 100 million. And if you read the media, they promised to spend $500 million on boosting the operation to 12 million tons per annum and producing 230 to 140,000 tons per annum from huge heap leach, which will be approximately 10 to 20 times more than what it was historically, which will be a big impact on this. West, it's a Russian operation producing 30 to 35,000 tons per annum, 35,000 ounces per annum. They started production 5 years ago. And their plant physically is located 5 kilometers from where we focused our activity. And our activity was in the southeastern corner within 1 square kilometer for simple reason, because this is where we expected the continuation of the bodies. I'm not going to read through this. The license was acquired at an auction, so clean title, no previous ownership. And despite presence of the mine, nobody bothered to acquire the ground nearby until the year 2013. And last exploration, as I said, was 50 years ago. In 2017, we started just testing the Soviet results because 50 years gone, nothing happened. Why? And I can say that there was a mixed result. There was a positive outcome, there was a negative outcome, and we have found something new. Nevertheless, after last year, we realized that actually the potential of these resources between 1.5 to 2.5 million ounces at 1.5 to 2 grams. And this is how the ground looked like in 2016. That's the open pit. If the resolution would be better, you would see brown color, which corresponds to the ore bodies within the pit. These are traces of trenching and drilling done by Sun Gold. This is a license boundary. We obviously focused on this area. For some reason, it's a wrong image. It's only half of the presentation. Okay, I'll try to explain. So what happened now? What happened now is that actually, if you would go to this area now, that it's all trenched and drilled. We drilled 17,000 meters. We trenched 5,000 meters, and the deepest hole is 421 meters deep, on average 200. Basically, the open pit is 1 kilometer long. In this area, in this area now, we have found several ore bodies 900 meters long. Essentially, we doubled the length of this deposit divided between the two licenses. And we currently received about 95% of all assays. Probably the remaining 5% will come during next week or so. Wardell Armstrong will be doing CP report for us. We believe that it will be ready by Christmas. We keep our guidance of 1.8 to 2.5 million ounces at the grade which I specified. I saw all the results. Believe me that estimate is realistic. In fact, we also see presence of silver with a ratio of 1:1 to 1:4, and in the most western part over here, we had a hit of 2.7 meters running 1 kilogram of silver in addition to 2 gram gold. So there is some substantial silver in the system. We also, although the average grade is 1.5 to 2 grams, but over here the mineralization is about forming a corridor of 200 meters, which was completely overlooked in the historical data. We have found high-grade pots. We were running internal competition who would lift the highest grade sample, and the highest grade sample was 565 grams. So it's not just 1.5 to 2 grams gold. We also see some high-grade pots which will help. And high-grade material of greater than 2 grams comes together, and it is, if you collect our presentations in the back, you would see that it's all for real. So I say that discovering of new things, especially brownfield, is still possible in the country, and we believe that it will be a good foundation for the future operation, irrespective of what happens with our friends, with Russian operators or with future Chinese operators. Of course, we don't have endless pockets. Currently, we have about $1.7 million in the bank, which will allow us to do through the necessary permitting process. We will apply for the pilot mining permit as soon as possible to make us independent on the market conditions, whether our share price, which is 24 to 22 cents, re-rates or not. And we believe that despite of difficulties, still be possible to do. If you are interested in details, we can talk, myself and also Sergei Stefanovich, who is here. Thank you very much.